Well, it is certainly my pleasure this morning to introduce our first speaker. As part of our CEO Spotlight here at the World of Modular, we're going to hear from Gail Warrior, the CEO of Warrior Group. Warrior plays a major role in the transformation and acceptance of permanent modular construction and has grown to be one of the largest minority and women-owned construction service companies in the U.S., seeing revenue growth of 300% in the past 2 years alone. It's amazing. As an entrepreneur, Gail has received recent honors including Top Women Entrepreneurs in North America by Enterprising Women magazine and Ernst & Young's Entrepreneur of the Year. Please join me in welcoming Gail Warrior from the Warrior Group.
Good morning. Okay, you guys did hang out at the casino too much last night. Good morning. All right, thanks, Tom, for that great introduction. You know, it's a pleasure to be here today. I got in last night, and I went to the reception, and just at the reception and briefly being in the exhibit hall this morning, I feel tons of energy that's been here at this conference this year. I think we've got a record crowd attendance this year, so kudos to all of us for being here. You know, I love the energy. I'm going to put this water down before it falls over. I love the energy that I feel from being here. It's the kind of energy from being in the business of building, and it comes from being in an industry where we get to create and build and develop every day. And when we succeed, that positive energy gets shared with everyone that we come in contact with, which is why it's really wonderful to be here to talk with all of you, because I understand what your days are like and some of the challenges that you face. We speak the same language, and I'll talk to you a little bit later about speaking the same language. But I also know that we've all driven down that same occasional bumpy road, the bumpy business road, especially in the recent economic times. Jobs are getting harder. We all have more hats to wear, and the economy is still brimming with a little bit of uncertainty. But that's the bad news that we're faced with. But luckily, what we do have is each other, and we have the resources of organizations like MBI, which has done so much for the modular construction industry in the areas of advocacy and establishing and furthering industry relationships, and even bringing us together here at this great conference. At Warrior, we've been extremely fortunate to be able to work with MBI and on the advancement of permanent modular construction, or the PMC portion of the business. And I can tell you this, that I believe that PMC represents an exciting opportunity for the modular industry, as well as for the overall construction industry over the next several decades and really throughout the next 21st century. But before I go too much into that, Tom actually asked me to give you a little bit of background about Warrior Group and a few of our projects. The journey of Warrior actually started, as most things really do, very, very small. I was actually working as a senior accountant at ExxonMobil, and one night we went to a business dinner with some friends who happened to own a modular manufacturing facility, and they specialize in temporary portable buildings. And during that dinner, we identified an unmet need in the federal government space. Then that's when the juices started flowing. Maybe it was the wine, I'm not sure. But it's true, we didn't have a business plan. We didn't have an office. We didn't have blueprints or really a workforce, and we didn't really have a major budget to speak of. But what we did have was a vision, and we had a vision for building quality modular buildings in the federal arena. And we wanted to be known as a trusted source with a superior product, a quality process, with good, smart people. So in the beginning, we launched the business on a shoestring budget, and we called on tons of friends and some family members to help build the company's infrastructure. And we borrowed some office space and a few staff members and to grow our emerging business. And pretty soon, we moved into our own office space, and we hired some administrative and some sales staff, and we put together our first marketing plan. We also learned a ton about the federal acquisition regulations. We did a lot of cold calling, and we built some key relationships within the federal government sector. We worked hard at developing a relationship with an 8A company to establish a thriving business model providing modular buildings in the federal arena. In the process, we replaced relocatable buildings, some purchase, and some lease for organizations like the U.S. Forest Service, the Department of Labor, the Veterans Administration, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And I mention those projects primarily because they were instrumental in bringing us to the point where we could now be able to successfully enter the military sector. And at the time, no one else was really doing extensive permanent modular construction. So we seized up the opportunity to build up our contacts, complete some successful projects, and develop something of an expertise in the military, on military construction projects. Then in 2003, things got pretty interesting. Warrior Group won bids that got us involved in two very large modular housing projects for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. One was at Fort Stewart in Georgia, and the other one was at Fort Bliss. That's that huge Army post that's just north and east of El Paso, Texas. And it was just 3 years later, in early 2006, that the Army announced a significant change in the building standards and construction project delivery process. This change was known as the MILCON transformation. It's the Army's program to provide quality, adaptable, sustainable facilities in less time and at a lower cost. And every one of us as a taxpayer can definitely appreciate those initiatives. The key to the Army's effort was the standardization of processes and facilities, as well as the adoption of private sector best practices. One part of the MILCON transformation was the adoption of a variety of building methods, including wood frame construction. And at that time, no one was really doing permanent modular construction in the military space. But we saw PMC as a natural fit with the MILCON transformation. So what did we do? We shifted our business model to bridge the gap, if you will, between the world of manufacturers and the world of traditional site-built contractors. And some of you are already well aware that traditional business practices of the site-built world and the traditional business practices of the modular world don't always naturally fit together. In many cases, it's as if they speak different languages. Critical items such as risk management, scope control, financing, change order processes, payment terms, and other key business essentials that we deal with each and every day in all types of construction make it difficult for a project to be successful without someone who speaks both languages. Well, at Warrior, we saw a key opportunity, and at Warrior, we became that someone who speaks both languages, and we went about putting together a team introducing PMC to the Corps of Engineers. In late 2006, we, along with our contracting partner, Hensel Phelps, and our product manufacturers at that time, Trendsetter and All-American, were awarded our first PMC barracks project at Fort Bliss. Since then, we've been privileged to be part of several other firsts, including the first permanent modular 2-story barracks, the first PMC 3-story barracks, and the first PMC 4-story barracks. In the last 4 years alone, we've built barracks on multiple military installations representing over a total of 4 million square feet of PMC space. At Warrior, as I think you're probably beginning to tell, we have a passion for leading the way and for PMC. One of our most recent projects, which we are really proud of, is the Medical Education and Training Center barracks at Fort Sam Houston, which is located in San Antonio, Texas. This is the largest PMC project in North America. We provide for housing for military personnel attending the new medical training facility at Fort Sam that serves the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force. And the structure was required to meet the construction requirements of all 3 major military branches. And let me tell you, it's not easy to please the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force all at the same time. It's kind of like trying to please your wife and your mother at the same time. Guys, is that really possible? Not necessarily, but that's what we did. The project encompasses 5 buildings. Each houses about 1,200 students in 2-person rooms, and each has its own bathroom. Every one of the 5 buildings represents a total of 335 square feet. And in each individual building, 250,000 of that is permanent modular construction. The project also blends site-built features such as stairwells and very large common areas with the PMC components. And like all military projects, the barracks meet the Homeland Security regulations for blast resistance and progressive collapse characteristics. But the project, and this is my favorite part, highlights the many advantages of PMC and shows how PMC construction can deliver permanent facilities that perform as well as, if not better, than purely site-built facilities. And because of the pure nature of permanent modular construction, we were able to maintain an extremely clean work site, reduce waste, and have much less impact on the surrounding environment. PMC construction, as you know, also enabled us to create a facility that tests far above the military's very tough air barrier requirements, which meant that our project and our buildings are extremely energy efficient and provides lodging that's very comfortable for our troops. The building also meets or exceeds the U.S. Green Building Council's LEED Silver standards, and in some cases, even meeting LEED Gold standards. And on top of everything, we delivered the project in record time. In fact, our manufacturing and construction team earned an early completion bonus. So in short, we've achieved great success with PMC in the military sector, and now we're branching out to other segments, including student housing, senior living communities, and healthcare facilities. We also see huge potential for PMC in other segments, such as multifamily housing, hospitals, and retail. Yet the path forward is generally never easy, and as the future unfolds, we don't expect for it to be. And I don't think there's one person here among us who doesn't realize there's also a lot of work to be done to turn the opportunities of PMC into a reality. It was Vince Lombardi, the late great coach of a previous era Green Bay Packers, who said, "The only place that success comes before work is in the dictionary." And I firmly subscribe to that theory. So in order to help steer all of our hard work into the right direction, we have to be mindful of the history of PMC. So just precisely how did it evolve to where it is today? Well, it actually started in World War II. Europe obviously needed to rebuild quickly in order to try to catch up to extensive wartime economic losses. Modular construction was recognized as the most practical, the best fiscal option for building quality buildings on an expedited schedule. And at the same time, PMC was also starting to gain a foothold across the Atlantic in the United States. With our American military personnel returning home after the war and looking to buy homes and start families, the demand for homes was greater than the marketplace could keep up with, and using traditional building processes. That led to an urgent search for housing solutions that were more efficient to construct, that would lower the cost for new home construction. The modular building process answered both of these critical needs, and the post-war building boom helped spread knowledge and expertise regarding modular construction benefits. And while it didn't grow into anything even close to a dominant construction method, at least it was in the mix of some very good options within the construction industry, and it was proven quite favorable and very practical in many construction applications. For a number of years now, modular methods have been used in pockets within the commercial construction world. And all we really have to do is to talk to a lot of the members that are here today, or just glance at the MBI website to see some phenomenal examples of PMC buildings, from schools to retail sites to offices to multifamily housing. But in spite of the rich history, it's only been recently that PMC has begun to be recognized as a serious option among construction methods on a larger scale within the commercial construction world. And as an industry, we have come a long way. Many commercial construction companies are at least talking about PMC and exhibiting strong curiosity to find out how it could be incorporated into their future projects. And it's happening. Here's something that you may not know, and this comes from an entirely different segment of the construction business. It's the cruise ship building industry. The Queen Mary II is one of the largest and certainly one of the most luxurious cruise liners ever built. And it might interest you to know that the Queen Mary II was constructed using the PMC methodology. Sound impossible? Well, to ensure that every cabin will be built to the various highest standards, the ship's owners insisted a level of precision that was best achieved only in a factory environment. And consistent precision in a factory environment is, after all, what modular construction is all about. So the Queen Mary II chose modular designed passenger cabins, In this case, it was simply better than any alternative construction process because it meant greater precision and consistency of the product. Even the ship's VIP suites were constructed using the modular building process. And I don't know about you, but I think the construction experts who built that ship were onto something. So when it comes to modular construction as a rising concept, just how big do you think this opportunity is? Well, let's start with the fact that the commercial construction industry in the U.S. alone today represents a $260 billion a year industry. And as of right now, all modular construction, permanent and relocatable, accounts for only about 1% of that total. So let's do some simple math. So 1% figure means that a modular construction today represents about $2.6 billion within the overall U.S. commercial construction industry. So let's go a little bit further. Let's say that if we increase the modular component to 5%, that will raise the modular segment to about $13 billion. Or what if we raise it to 10%? That would advance, which today would put us at about $26 billion. Here's the best part, guys. Those numbers aren't in any way inconceivable. This is what I'm really talking about. New technology often spawns new industries right along with the companies that are able to muster the vision to be a part of it. Just think about the giant cell phone companies that didn't exist 25 years ago, or the entire computer industry that didn't exist 60 years ago. And those cars that you drive, well, the automobile industry didn't exist to really any realistic extent 100 years ago. History has shown us that with the foresight and the entrepreneurial spirit to take a leap when new technologies emerge, we end up as winners at the finish line. So let's take the bottled water industry, for example. I've got my bottled water here. I take it with me everywhere. No one prior to the 1970s would have thought it likely or even necessary to offer bottled water as a mass commodity. Though the first medicinal waters were bottled as early as the late 1700s, new technologies in the 50s and 60s made it possible for water to be purified, mass bottled, and made available for sale. And it was companies like Perrier and Poland Spring and Saratoga Springs and Mountain Valley who had the foresight to jump on the opportunity and turn it into the $15 billion industry that it is today. So here's the point. In the case of PMC, new processes and technologies are opening the door for more widespread use of PMC in large commercial projects. And when I say large, I'm talking about really large, big budget, even for single projects upwards to about $100 million. New construction techniques in the factory are also allowing large modules to be constructed and shipped across country. PMC is expanding from just wood frame construction to include light gauge and structural steel framing to construct buildings that break that four-story barrier. In addition, we're also beginning to see structural steel capable factories. I believe that within the next 20 years, through cooperation and innovation, we can easily envision PMC growing to become a much more broadly used construction method, adding further new opportunities for growth within our industry. And even beyond technological advances, there are many other factors working in favor of greater PMC application. For example, we all know that money today for construction projects is harder to come by. Owners and investors are looking to maximize their construction dollars and minimize their construction schedules so they can realize a faster return on their investment. And the growth of the construction technology, particularly the use of building information modeling, or BIM, is driving more discussions around the advantages of prefabrication in the building process. Customization capabilities for modular facilities has also been growing rapidly, meaning that many finished modular buildings look fundamentally the same as site-built projects. And green building and sustainability have gradually become more and more mainstream. It just happens that PMC construction supports both a leaner and more environmentally friendly construction process, as well as a much greater energy efficiency in the finished facility. But there's also some major roadblocks that I believe that we have to overcome and cut these issues down to little speed bumps, if you will, instead of major barriers. And we can do that by addressing them together in the industry. A good example is that the fact that the majority of architects and engineers simply still don't understand how to design for PMC, and many are still uninformed about the benefits of permanent modular construction. And for the most part, universities still don't teach PMC. They don't even include it in their curriculum. And as I'm sure most of you already know, it's always extremely important to be aware that PMC must be designed into a building from the very earliest stages. But unfortunately, some of the most common procurement methods used in commercial construction don't involve the contractor until the design is already complete. You and I already know that that's too late, and we have to be involved in the process much earlier. Quite often, the RFP language will specify requirements that simply don't work well for PMC. And sometimes the RFP may prohibit the application of the modular construction altogether, which eliminates the chance of a PMC application to even be considered. As an industry, we have yet to develop a common language or approach to the market. We must develop standard documents and processes of working together, similar to the AIA documents and other consensus documents that have standardized the business model in the commercial construction world. And when you come right down to it, owners and architects and general contractors are still fundamentally unaware and unfamiliar with PMC because they have no other frame of reference. They may well think of PMC as the equivalent of a temporary relocatable building versus a building that's of the same quality and construction as a site-built project. Together, we have to diligently fight to rid the industry of misconceptions of PMC as an inferior and inflexible construction method. And we can do that if we work together. And although it may appear that we have a long way to go, the fact is that we're already seeing plenty of forward-thinking, unquestionable positive results. There are organizations, including MBI, as well as others that are helping immensely through their advocacy with decision makers, through their research of publication of vital data and directed studies, and through their ongoing communication and critical education efforts. Together, Warrior Group and other members, MBI has achieved a tangible success in having restrictive language removed from various recent RFPs. And MBI is also working with many key policymakers, regulators, and legislators to help further open up PMC possibilities. But there are numerous things that we can still do right now to help move us forward much more quickly. First, we can all work together to grow the industry, not just our individual companies, at the potential expense of our professional colleagues. I think it was President John F. Kennedy who first said, "A rising tide lifts all boats." So that means whether he was first or not, I think he certainly knew what he was talking about, which is that sharing best practices and working as an industry to develop new processes, procedures, and business approaches will allow all of us to win. We can also be an active part of MBI's efforts to educate more architects, engineers, owners, and universities on the methods and benefits of permanent modular construction. And of the utmost importance, we must do everything that we can to try to make sure that every PMC project is a success. And I think you would agree with me that the reasons behind this are fairly obvious. You know, when a particular methodology or industry practice is still considered new, everybody's watching, and which means that there's much less margin for error. It's kind of like that veteran basketball player who always seems to get the benefit of the doubt from the commentators when he's shooting a bad game. For those guys, he's just having an off day. You know, it's no big deal. Versus the rookie who, if he has a bad game, he's now scrutinized for his ability to take his game to the next level. To the commentators, he's not just having a bad day, he may not just have what it takes at all. And as Wes Carter, I like to always add this, as Wes Carter, who's our general manager for national accounts, likes to say, when a traditional project goes wrong, people view it as just a bad project. But when a PMC project goes wrong, people often view it as a bad industry. At any time that we assume that a PMC project is like any other modular industry project, I think that's a very risky concept. So it's absolutely essential that we always seek to learn from each other and discuss better business practices and procedures with our peers to maintain constant and meaningful professional contact with our engineering and architectural associates. And in particular, don't hesitate to reach out to MBI as a resource for what the industry and all of us in it are working at to make major advancements. The widespread adoption of PMC construction methods will undoubtedly eventually create the power to change the face of the entire construction industry. And if we choose, we can all be a part of it, this exciting future. Who else, after all, is better prepared and positioned to take advantage of the coming opportunities than the people who have built the modular industry to the point where it's expanded today? And if you're not sure who that is, that would be us, the people right here in this room. As leaders in the industry, we all have a responsibility to move the industry forward. So I'll leave you with this challenge. As you go back to your office this week and that you dare to initiate a new way of thinking, a new approach that says that every employee has a special responsibility to help make your organization successful and to make it grow. That requires us to value every positive idea, every serious suggestion on how we might do things just a little bit better. We are, after all, a can-do industry. So let's do what we can to adopt good, bold, new ideas and face the future with confidence each and every day. I thank you for your time, and thanks to MBI and to all of the members for your true spirit of partnership and the many ways that you help all of us succeed. Thanks again, and have a great conference.
Thank you so much, Gail. That, you know, I had a lot of thoughts going through my mind when she was making her presentation. Her comments seem to be being echoed at a lot of the other breakouts we're going to. The spirit of cooperation, sharing best practices, the need to educate architects and engineers, the need to be innovative. We talked yesterday at our business meeting about building momentum and having everyone pushing in the same direction. And I know from MBI's perspective, we're quite happy to have Warrior with their shoulder at that flywheel pushing in the same direction with us, building that momentum. I think we're going to see some incredible things for the industry this year, and so glad to have Warrior as a part of that. Each year we, you know, MBI hires keynote speakers, and we pay them a lot of money to come here and tell us all these crazy things about building drones in their basement and things like that. But we also like to have some people from our own industry get up here and tell their story and some of the challenges they've had. So we appreciate Gail doing that this year, and we're going to continue this CEO spotlight into the future, because I think it's always good to recognize someone from within our industry that's achieved such success and has such a passion about it. So again, thank you, Gail.